Hello everyone, it's Wednesday, May 27th. I'm Stephanie Haney here with your 3 News Now afternoon update where we bring you the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app, everything that people are clicking on right now and what you need to know as you go through the rest of your day and the rest of your week. We'll start with the most up-to-date numbers on COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio, released by the Ohio Department of Health. We get those each day at 2 p.m. So we do have those new numbers in now. And just a reminder, the reason that we take a look at these new numbers every single day is because what we're looking for is a downward trend. And what we need in order to consider something a downward trend are 14 consecutive days of numbers decreasing in terms of the new daily reported cases and the new daily reported deaths related to COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. Now, also keep in mind that there is a little bit of a lag in the reporting, so these new cases and these new deaths may have been made aware to the Ohio Department of Health over the past couple of days, but they were reported today at 2 p.m. So here are the numbers that we have for you right now as they've been reported to us by the Ohio Department of Health. New cases are down for the second day in a row, and new deaths are up, and hospitalizations and ICU admissions are significantly up from what we saw yesterday. So the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the state of Ohio, this is both positive test cases and also probable cases based on that expanded CDC definition, is now 33,439. That's after today we saw an increase of 433 new cases reported. Now that's down from yesterday on Tuesday when we saw 529 new cases reported, and also down from Monday when we had an uptick and saw 566 new cases reported. So today, 433 new cases reported. That is the second day in a row of a lesser number of new daily reported cases. The total number of deaths in Ohio is now 2,044, with a significant jump from yesterday. We saw 42 new deaths reported today. That's after we saw 15 new deaths reported on Tuesday and 18 new deaths reported on Monday. Monday, again, was an uptick in the number of deaths as well, as we saw 13 new deaths reported on Sunday. So today, 42 new deaths reported. That's a significant increase in the number of deaths that we saw from the new number that was reported yesterday, with the total number of deaths now at 2,044 here in the state of Ohio. The total number of hospitalizations that we have now seen related to COVID-19 in the state of Ohio, this dates all the way back to March 9th, when we first learned that COVID-19 was present here in the state of Ohio, is now 5,700. And we saw a big increase from yesterday to today. There were 121 new hospitalizations reported in the past 24 hours. That's up from 68 new hospitalizations reported on Tuesday and 35 new hospitalizations reported on Monday. So that has been climbing up for several days now in terms of the number of new hospitalizations. The total number of ICU admissions, again dating all the way back to March 9th, is now 1,492, with another big jump in the number of ICU admissions compared to yesterday. Today we saw 42 new reported ICU admissions. Yesterday, on Tuesday, we saw 7 new reported ICU admissions, and on Monday we saw 5 new reported ICU admissions. So several days again of that number climbing in terms of ICU admissions as well. Now let's take a look at how the numbers are looking across the country and globally. When we look at the U.S. numbers and the global numbers from yesterday to today, cases and deaths are both up significantly. Here in the U.S., there were 20,105 new COVID-19 cases reported in the last 24 hours. These numbers are according to Johns Hopkins University, by the way. That brings the total number of cases of COVID-19 in the U.S. to just over 1,689,000. 1,689,000. That's the total number there. So the number of new cases in the U.S. up from yesterday. The total number of deaths in the U.S. is now very, very close to 100,000. It is not there yet. It is 99,674. That was after we saw 1,248 new deaths reported today in the U.S. That's up significantly from yesterday as well. Yesterday across the U.S., we saw 486 new deaths reported. Today, 1,248 new deaths reported. Now, if we took a look at the percentages of U.S. cases and deaths, looking at the global situation, over the past 24 hours, the U.S. has had 21% of new cases worldwide and 26% of new deaths worldwide. Globally now, we are looking at a total of about 5,640,000 COVID-19 cases. And in the last 24 hours, that number has gone up by 96,521, almost 100,000 new cases globally in the past 24 hours. The total number of new deaths globally in the past 24 hours is 4,838. That brings the total number of deaths reported globally right now to 352,674 in terms of COVID-19. Something that's happening in the social media world, President Donald Trump is talking about trying to shut down social media after Twitter applied its new fact-checking element to his tweets for the first time since they rolled out the fact-checking system on their platform. So the president, by the way, cannot unilaterally regulate or close these companies. That would require action by Congress or the Federal Communications Commission. But that did not stop President Donald Trump from tweeting about it as if that were the case. He said that tech giants, quote, silence conservative voices, and he tweeted, "We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen." So while he was going off on Twitter for applying the fact-checking element to his tweets, he repeated the claim that got him flagged in the first place. That claim was that expanding mail-in voting, quote, would be a free-for-all on cheating, forgery, and the theft of ballots. So after Trump tweeted that the first time, Twitter added a warning phrase to two of his tweets. The tweets called mail-in ballots, quote, fraudulent, and predicted, quote, mailboxes will be robbed, among other things. So under the tweets, if you take a look at President Donald Trump's timeline, there is now a link that reads, "Get the facts about mail-in ballots," and that guides users to a Twitter Moments page that has fact checks and news stories about those unsubstantiated claims and what mail-in balloting really is all about and what that looks like. So take a look at that on WKYC.com. We have all of that linked there for you. Now we have some good news related to COVID-19 here in Northeast Ohio. We talk about how the number of hospitalizations and the number of ICU admissions changes daily, and we get those new reported numbers. Well, we have one less person in the ICU that was there for sure. This is 74-year-old Jerry Gustin. He was discharged from University Hospital's PARMA Medical Center this morning after spending nearly 2 months recovering from COVID-19. That included 23 days in the intensive care unit. So he came out in a wheelchair to applause from caregivers and family members. He had his arms outstretched to the sky, and he was wearing a t-shirt that said, "2020 pandemic survivor, we battled, I won." After 57 days, he was finally reunited with his loved ones, and he expressed a deep gratitude for the hospital staff, the people who helped him through this incredible ordeal. He said, "Everybody worked together. They were beautiful. I've never had such good care." Outside, his family gave him a sign that said, "COVID-19 warrior, you did it." And we streamed the moment where he got to come outside for the very first time in that wheelchair, experiencing sunshine for the first time in weeks. So you can watch that on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. It's a truly beautiful moment. I highly recommend watching that. Here's something that's some interesting timing. A lot of people might think there will be a vote on Ohio sports betting. That's expected tomorrow in the Ohio House of Representatives. So it's this Ohio HB 194, House Bill 194. It was first introduced last April, and it passed through the Ohio House Rules Committee and the House Finance Committee, and it is now set up for a vote on the Ohio House floor, which is expected to take place tomorrow. Here's what the bill hopes to do. It wants to create a sports gaming advisory board. It wants to legalize and regulate sports gaming in this state of Ohio, and it wants to create a tax on businesses that provide sports gaming. This particular bill has been sponsored by Representative Dave Greenspan, and he does say that he expects it to pass the House tomorrow. You might be thinking that the timing is very interesting right now since we don't have any live sports really happening. You know, we've talked about some things coming back. We have some projected dates. We're hoping Major League Baseball can come back. without fans, but starting that process. But Greenspan told LegalSportsReport.com that they are moving it now to start the negotiations with the Senate over the summer so that when sports do come back in the early fall, they'll be able to get a bill on the governor's desk by the end of the year. So that's the plan. That's the reason for this timing right now. But here's the thing. Even if it does pass the House on Thursday, there are some key differences between this version and the Senate bill that was first introduced. So the House bill calls for the Ohio Lottery Commission to oversee this sports gaming advisory board, but the Senate would put the Casino Control Commission in charge. So two very, very big differences there. So the negotiations between the two sides can't get started until the House passes its version of the bill, which seems like that could likely happen tomorrow. And then after that, a timetable will start to come more to fruition about legalizing sports betting in Ohio and what that would look like, and that'll become more clear. And many people are eyeing that, of course, with the big November election coming up. So that will probably be a large topic of conversation here in Ohio in the coming weeks and months. Now, as we all think about what's happening with Cedar Point right here in our backyards, Disney World has submitted a plan to reopen. So we're taking a look at what that might mean for Cedar Point. So Walt Disney World announced their plans today to start a phased reopening of their Florida parks later this summer. And what that's looking like right now is the Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom would start welcoming guests July 11th based on this plan. None of these dates are set in stone right now. And then Epcot and Hollywood Studios would begin seeing guests again on July 15th. Now, this puts their restart about 5 weeks behind Universal Orlando, which is planning to reopen starting June 5th, which is right around the corner here. Highlights of the Disney proposal include mandatory face masks for guests, something that we just saw with Six Flags yesterday, conducting temperature checks, and canceling large-scale events like their fireworks and their parades. We do have a link to the full list of those plan restrictions on WKYC.com, so make sure you check that out. And of course, Florida's governor has to approve the Disney plan, so it's not like they just get to run with it. It does definitely have to be approved. Cedar Point hasn't really talked too much about their next steps, but the company's CEO Richard Zimmerman did provide a handful of potential changes on a conference call earlier this month that could potentially impact Cedar Point and Cedar Point water shores. So among those changes include guests having to make reservations to visit the park. That's another thing we saw with Six Flags, limiting capacity, virtual lines to sort of log in and get in line and save your spot and get your admission time for the different rides to prevent people lining up in those big lines where there's not a lot of space for that physical distancing, maintaining that 6-foot physical distance throughout the park, and also enhanced cleaning efforts. But even if Cedar Point does announce a game plan soon, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine said that it is just not time for large attractions like Cedar Point to reopen yet here in the state of Ohio. On Sunday's Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, he said that we are just certainly not there yet, despite the fact that everybody wants that to happen as quickly as possible, but also as safely as possible. So those are the things that we have to balance there. Cedar Point also teased a big surprise. The park spokesperson Tony Clark posted a video on Tuesday with a message on Twitter. It said, "Slight delay, but you've been so nice, I have something to share with you." And the post had a picture with it with a tiny glimpse of a design plan that appears to show the front end of a roller coaster train. So one person started guessing that it has something to do with the Millennium Force trains and nothing to do with a new ride. Clark responded saying, kind of. People are thinking that that might be the case because Cedar Point is celebrating the 20th anniversary season of the Millennium Force ride. He also did say, Clark said, it is not even a new coaster. So it's not a new roller coaster. We do know that. We will be anxiously awaiting more news about what's going on with that as soon as we get those details from Cedar Point, which I'm sure they'll reveal to us soon as they have primed everybody up with this teaser video. That is your 3 News Now afternoon update for Wednesday, May 27th. Next up, I will see you on What's New at 5 p.m. You can watch that on Channel 3, also on WKYC.com and our WKYC app, and also streaming live on YouTube. That's at youtube.com/user/WKYCTV. After that, we'll have more coverage for you at 6 p.m. on What Matters Most, at 7 p.m. on Front Row, and 11 p.m. on What's Next. And I'll see all of you back here tomorrow Thursday, May 28th at 11 a.m. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Have a great evening. I'll see you at 5 p.m. on What's New, and I'll see you back here tomorrow morning. I'm Stephanie Haney.